Hi, and welcome back to SEO On-Air. I'm your host, Aaron, and today we have EJ Saunders, CEO of Blaze Digital Solutions, with us today. We talk about the key qualities to be a successful manager, important strategies to stay organized, and the five-level framework for ad domination. I hope you enjoyed this video.
Yeah, so my name's EJ Saunders. I own a company called Blaze Digital, and I got into SEO. It was back in 2008. Was kind of searching on things that I needed, wanted to do with my life, so to speak. I had just gotten married and started doing some internet searches and found some people that were making, some pretty good money working from home, just writing blog posts and things like that. So I was very, very intrigued by that. And from there, that's what enabled, or motivated me to go look for a job to where I could actually learn this stuff. And so I got a job at a place called Orange Soda, and then the rest really is history. From there, I went to college for digital marketing, or marketing with an IT emphasis, so to speak, and just kind of progressed from there. So that's really in a nutshell, that's me, and kind of like how I really got started in it. It was just from searching online of how I can make money.
Were there any, let's say, key highlights from that period before you became the CEO of Blaze Digital?
Some of it seemed like for me, I was very, very intrigued by just the notion of being able to make money from home. And back then it was not a common thing. It was actually something that people kind of just dreamed about, really. And so I took that on as like, I want to do this. I want to make this happen for myself. And literally just line things up for me to be able to do it. So it was, I got a job at Orange Soda. I started learning, keyword creation. So I was on the keyword creation team for the PPC team. I was an inside sales guy, so I had to learn SEO so I could sell it. And just the whole notion of seeing what other people were doing inside the company as well just really intrigued me to want to kind of really dive more into it. That led to me wanting to go to school to get more in-depth knowledge around, how do I put together a website? How do I do design? How do I do this? How do I do programming so that I can basically start my own site, all just me, do all the legwork, so to speak, initially to kind of get something off the ground. And so that I could speak the language. So if I have people come and working for me or working with me, I can speak the language so I can communicate effectively. And so that was the whole notion of why I kind of did that route. And then while I was going through school, I actually started a little company called True Natural Bodybuilder, which was a live streaming company where we went and live streamed bodybuilding events and different sporting events. And that was kind of a fun gig. Did that for about a year and a half or so. And then that's when I kind of got a job at another agency to work, because that company didn't work out. It was kind of like I was doing live streaming well before live streaming was
Like a thing. Yeah.
And so it was really difficult to get somebody to pay sponsorships, to do that kind of stuff, for a lot of the organizations to even recognize the value in having live streaming happening at their events. They felt like it was something that would deter people from even coming to the live events. And so it was a foreign thing during that time. So that didn't work out. Ended up closing that business down, but that led me to work for another agency where I really dove in hard on my development, so web development and SEO. And then I took over their PPC aspects as well for clients and things. So over the course of 5.5 years or so, I basically done everything from account management to, doing SEO and PPC and everything in between. So web development as well. I was pretty heavy into the web development for that company. So I was just kind of everywhere.
Kind of like an all-round SEO.
Mm-hmm.
So, you did also have, I think, a good amount of experience pretty much managing these accounts, because I don't think there were a lot of other people who could do as much of it as you could.
Yeah.
So could you give us a bit of these key qualities that's required to be a successful manager in this role?
So I feel like in the marketing space, a good account manager is a good marketing strategist. They can speak to all the elements to what needs to happen to grow the company, right? So they can look and they understand, to be able to just understand the aspects of SEO on the technical side, and to be able to communicate like how that's going to, improve their revenue or the bottom line. Being able to communicate at that level, I think is very crucial, because there's a lot of things that people just kind of cut, just because they see it as like a cost, or they see it as something that's like, up in the air, and they don't really understand it. So they're like, oh, we can just get rid of that. When it's like, no, that was actually a very important piece of the pie.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have done that, because now we're actually going to lose what we just gained momentum on. There's different things like that. So where you can communicate and you can have like very strong strategic, points. If that's a good way to say it or not. But really just having an overall understanding of what everything that's going on. So I'm not like the best, any really, like if you was to put me up against like somebody that only does SEO all day long, that's like all they do, they'll probably beat me. They'll probably crush me, right? But I understand enough to be really competitive. So, and I know where to kind of pull the strings and where to not pull the strings, so that I don't screw things up, but I know how to really guide success on that front. And same thing with like web development. I'm 100% not the best web developer out there, but I know enough to where I can build my own scripts. I can do all the different command line things to be able to make things happen, and to be able to develop something so I can build a landing page, for example, and all the functionality with a form and the conversion tracking and all that kind of stuff. I can do that all on my own and understand it at a pretty deep level, to where I can debug it as well if things do go wrong. So, so kind of being able to have that experience and the nuances is what really makes somebody like a good account manager, because they can then really take care of the account. Like I would even say that there's a lot of like marketing directors, right? People, or even CMOs for the most part, don't understand. I would argue that I'd probably say a large majority of CMOs don't really understand any of the technical aspects of SEO,
Yeah, 100.
of digital ads, you know what I mean? Of even like a website functionality and things like that. They just don't. And so if you want to be a strong account manager, a strong marketing director, a strong, leader, really having a good grasp on all those things, you don't need to know all the ins and outs, but I'd say have a strong relationship with those things, and you will be 10 times more effective.
Yeah, there actually is a saying that a jack of all trades, but master of none. Apparently, it's a longer phrase that has the other part of it saying, but oftentimes better a master of one, which basically says that it's rather better to actually know a little bit about each thing than to actually be fully specialized in one.
Yeah.
Each having their pros and cons, but at least for this particular account management role, you do need to know a little bit of each area. But what would you say, let's say, are some of the challenges you faced while being in this role?
Some of the challenges is when you can perform, there's high expectations regardless. Even if you are like, hey, this is not, I'd be really hesitant, I don't feel good about this or whatnot. They have, some people can put so much faith in you that you'll just get it done. You'll just make it happen like it's some kind of magic trick. And so I'd say managing expectations is one of the most difficult things to do. I think in general, for any account manager, regardless of your experience, managing expectations is really difficult to do. Because even if you try to properly manage expectations, sometimes the perception of the client is like, wow, they're just, trying to undersell me, or they're just trying to, whatever, it's really hard to kind of keep that like reality, unless you have like a really long-standing relationship where they really know you as a person and they can kind of read you like that. And a lot of account, including myself, like sometimes like I'm really overzealous on what I can do as well. And so sometimes, I put too much on me, to where it's like, oh crap, now I've really overloaded myself and like I'm spread too thin. And so I think it's like both sides, but that's probably the best difficult things, is to really like manage expectations and then not letting my ego get in the way.
Okay.
And I think a lot of account managers are like that too, where they just want to see the success and they just want to get the upsell. They just want to get to the next step. And sometimes that blockades.
So you did mention that you also have had issues trying to, not spread yourself too thin. So what are some of the strategies that you could use to kind of help stay organized and manage it properly?
So one of the things that we've really implemented at Blaze is we create 90-day game plans for clients. And with that 90-day game plan, we identify 3 things maximum that need to happen in order to hit the goal, right? So it's like, what are the 3 main projects over the next 90 days that we need to do, like to be able to accomplish our goal? So it's really just simplifying it. And then we take that, the 90-day game plan, and we split it into 30-day attack plans. So it's like, okay, we have over the next 90 days, we have 3 things that we need to do. Now, over this first 30 days, we're only going to focus on the one thing. What's the one thing that we need to get done to keep so we're still on track, but what's going to be the most impactful thing that's going to basically push the needle forward? And I think that has been really a game changer for the business, and it's really simplified things for the team, and it's really helped clarify too of like, what exactly are we supposed to be doing right now with this client. Well, it's like, hey, we're going to do this one big project, and like the projects may have a bunch of different tasks and different things underneath it, but it's very focused on like one goal, right? And so, and I think that more than anything is that has been the game-changing thing that's really helped to streamline expectations and just tasks overload.
How do you, in your experience, how would you suggest others to grow a successful client base, and how do you identify these opportunities as well? To, like you said, there are people who want to upsell them while being an account manager, but what would be the best way to kind of naturally approach that?
Yeah, no, it is kind of a long-winded question, but I think the big thing is just to identify, especially like in the beginning. So when I started Blaze, I did one thing, and it was like, I'm going to run your digital ads. That's all I'm going to do. And I'm going to help you get a 300% return within 90 days, or we don't have to work together. You know what I mean? Like it was, hey, I'm going to do this one thing. I can do this one thing really good, and I'm just going to hit that. And I think that has been, that obviously it proved to be very successful at being able to do that, because then people are like, hey, okay, here's my digital ads guy. Here's my digital ads guy. And it was referral after referral, because I was able to focus and just get results and just do that one thing really well. And then in the mix of it, I had to bring on a friend that did email marketing, and then I started bringing other people on to do web development and things, because I was upselling things. It's like, hey, for my ads to work better, we should start sending more emails. And it's like, oh, well, for my ads to get better, we actually need to build a landing page, or we need to build a lead magnet so that we can build that email list, and then I can use that email list as a retargeting mechanism so that my ads work better.
Yeah, you're not just waffling your way through, you're actually giving them a reason behind your upselling needs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was a natural thing that led from one thing to the next to the next. And so before I knew it, I was like, oh crap, I've got to have an email marketing team and a web dev SEO team. I've got to basically became like a full scale marketing agency
Yeah.
just from that. But my lead in offer and what I brought people in with was I will run your digital ads and I'll help you get to it. I'll help you get a 300% return on ad spend within 90 days.
And that was the initial sell.
Mm-hmm.
So you've pretty much got like a knack for ads and selling itself. I think you also had maybe a workflow type thing, which was the 5-level framework of for ad domination. Could you
Yeah,
give
so
us a bit of
so
about that?
I'm a partner. I'm a digital company called Digital Marketer. I'm a certified partner with them, and they have a framework called the Customer Value Journey. That because I'm a partner, I'm able to utilize that in my business and for my clients and all that kind of stuff. But it's much more broad. And so what I did was I took the customer value journey and I split it into 5 levels for how I run ads. So because this is how like I run ads is really based strongly on that framework on the CVJ. And so but there's a lot of different nuances and things like that. And so for my team to be able to execute and think more like how I would run it, I put these 5 levels. So it's like, hey, here's our cold traffic. And then level 2 is like our first level of retargeting, right? Level 3 is our second level of retargeting. Level 4 is like our abandoned cart, like hottest prospects ever. And then our level 5 is our current customer base. So you can see like it's systematically leading people to a purchase. The other thing that it does is it outlines the type of content that you need to deliver at each level. So how do we need to be communicating with these people if they see our cold traffic ad, but they, don't engage with us? Well, we need them to get them to engage with us. So how do we make that happen? Well, if they engage with us, but don't go to the website, how do we need to communicate with them? What things do we need to put in front of them for them to go to the website? If they go to the product page and add something to the cart, but they don't make a purchase, what do we need to put in front of them that's going to push them over the edge to make a purchase, right? So we're systematically leading people to a purchase.
Yeah.
And so we're identifying like the type of traffic. We're building audiences like crazy. When we start running level 1 ads, I think we build out like 50 different audiences based on engagement, website traffic, time on site, if they went to a specific page, like the whole, if they watched a percentage of our videos, like there's a ton of different, if they send us a DM, like there's a myriad of, there's a myriad of different audiences and different things that you can use to target with that a lot of people kind of really overlook. But if you really build all of those things out and your retargeting is very specific, you're going to be able to communicate to them in such a way to get them to just take the next step, right? And so the whole notion of the 5 level is like, what do we need to do from level 1 to 5 to get them to take the next step? And then once they become a customer, how do we get them re-engaged? And basically kind of it comes this cyclical thing that we can get them to come back and make a purchase again and again and again. And so in a very short amount of time, I had to figure out how to put all my knowledge and how I run and start and structure campaigns and how I do it down on paper so that my team can take that.
Congrats. I was just trying to put 2 and 2 together. I was just wondering how someone was able to manage client work while also being deployed. It just took a whole minute for me to register that.
Yeah.
But congrats, that is really amazing.
Thank you. But that's really how it came out. That's how it came about, was I had to figure out a way to get it out of my head on paper so my team could take it and execute how I would execute. And in turn, that became a very core system to the business, because we use that framework for emails, we use it for ads, we use it for content creation, we use it for building landing pages, for messaging. Like, it's a very core piece to what we do.
So what would you say, taking that into account, are some of the new trends that you're seeing in the PPC field? Because I'm pretty sure that some of the levels of that framework work based on, let's say, older trends. So how many of
Sure.
these trends are different, and what are the new ones that are maybe emerging nowadays?
So because I mean, you're right, but you still build audiences. Like I'm actually doing this and executing this right now for Blaze. Um, so I have my 5-level system built out for Blaze that I'm executing on. That's bringing in leads every single day. I have new people submitting and requests to meet with us, setting appointments and things like that. So I would say that it's not necessarily a trend, but more based around human psychology. And now some of the technology has changed for sure with iOS 14 and with the inability to track at the micro levels that we were able to track with, and the access to certain interests and things like that has certainly changed. Um, but human behavior will always be the same.
That
And
hasn't seen
so,
much change.
no,
Attention
for
span is just low.
yeah, since humans existed, I think we've kind of had this innate thing in us that, curiosity is always going to kill the cat, so to speak.
Yeah.
And not saying that that's necessarily what we're doing with marketing, but we're just teaching them to basically take the next step. What do we need to do? What kind of messaging do we need to put in place that's going to be hitting on their pain point? So it really is. It's more about how more in depth can you understand who your customer is, who your ideal customer is, and then communicating effectively enough for them to just take the next step. It's kind of funny because we have these machine learning algorithms and we have all sorts of stuff happening, right? Facebook, Google, they're trying to more and more, they're taking away the inability for us to make these micro changes and different things like that. One thing that they probably won't ever change is the way that we can message. But they're utilizing the way that we can message to put who's going to respond to that message more effectively in front, if that makes sense, right? So we're still applying the same principles, even though it's in a machine learning environment, and more, especially with like ChatGPT and like all these other technologies that are coming out, that still is not going to change the way that humans behave at our core, right?
Yeah.
People are still going to have problems. We're still going to be able to have to communicate how we're going to solve those problems. And if the value exchange for that is enough, there's going to be an exchange of value, exchange of money, exchange in getting them to solve their problems, right? It's always going to be the case. So for us as marketers, the best market, this is actually a prime time to be a good marketer. Yeah. Because if you're a good marketer, you're going to be able to really identify those key components that people need help with, their pain points, and you're going to just communicate in a better way on how you're going to solve those problems. Doing that is going to, like, you'll always, if you're a marketer that does that truly cares about solving problems for people, you're always going to be a place for you to have work. Always. And same thing that's like with entrepreneurs, right? Entrepreneurs, like, that's the whole point of their existence, is to make people's lives better, to solve their problems, to be able to understand a group of people so good that you can speak to them as if you're like in their head, right? Yeah. I don't know if you've ever seen an ad or whatever that was like, wow, they like wrote that.
They know exactly what I needed. Yeah.
And so that's what I think more of like all this technology is doing is really separating the cream from the crop.
While you are also finding, let's say, more personalized and customized ways to find your customers and target them, again, for their personal needs, there is also, like you said, ChatGPT and other tools that are helping PPC and other channels to be now automated. So how are you finding that? Is that now just a way to, let's say, remove a person from a job, or is it just a way to help people do their job quicker and more efficiently?
Yeah, it's that. I mean, it's a tool, right? AI will never be able to communicate as effectively as like a human to a human being as a human being can communicate to a human being. right?
I think
AI
can you say that
is,
louder for the people in the back? Because we've had so many people constantly asking us, is AI going to take our job? Are we going to lose like our security now because of this?
yeah,
But
no,
thank you.
yeah, it's definitely, I mean, it's a great tool, and you're going to see some amazing stuff come out, right? Because you're going to have some really already talented people utilizing it to make their job more efficient. Somebody that doesn't have the core fundamentals, education, or experience is not going to be able to utilize that technology to its fullest or even effectively.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if you've never worked on a car, but you have this machine that's going to all of a sudden tell you how to fix everything on that car, but you don't even know what to put in the machine, how is that going to help you?
Yeah. It's just another
You know?
useless tool then.
Yeah, exactly. And so you're going to see a lot of crap coming out of it, which is what I have seen a lot of crap that's come out
Oh
of that.
boy.
And but I've seen a lot of really good stuff that's come out of it too. So you can really see the people that know what to put into it to get the results that you want. You're seeing some amazing, like with Midjourney and some of these others. Like I'm seeing some amazing artwork, but it's all based on people that already have a strong skill set in those elements. So it's it's going to make us a lot more efficient and a lot more effective at what we do, and to be able to produce things much quicker.
Now that we are kind of chatting about AI and ChatGPT in general, I did want to ask, what are the ethical implications of using AI for your needs? I think in terms of, let's say, marketing and content, there's a very fine line between what's ethical and what's not. But I want to know your take on it.
Yeah, so AI is going to produce whatever you put into it, and it's going to learn whatever you put into it. The nice thing is it still can kind of be controlled by what is put into it. Um, so human beings are going to be the one that's going to be controlling that line of privacy and all that kind of stuff, because AI is a machine. It's not going to know one way or the other. It's not going to know what ethical is and what ethical is not, unless you tell it what is ethical and what is not ethical. But even with that, there's still elements that, because your perception of ethics could be very different from my perception of ethics, right?
Right. Yeah.
So what is ethical? Like that's kind of a
good question.
More of what we should be asking, right? Because the machine's just going to put out whatever we put into it. Yeah. It's a machine. You know what I mean? Like it's not going to identify what privacy. It doesn't know what privacy is or how that's perceived by human beings and how that's interchanged between cultures and all that kind of stuff. And so, yes, there's a fine line, but the people that are driving it, that are creating it, that are inputting things into it are the ones ultimately responsible for what is the output of that.
For what it is worth, ChatGPT and other AI tools are doing quite a few wonders for marketing professionals like ourselves. So what are some, let's say, use cases that we can use ChatGPT without, raising any eyebrows?
Yeah, I mean, one of the ways that that I've actually used it is to help structure headlines and different things like that. The cool thing about ChatGPT is you can kind of teach it, right? Saying, hey, here's a framework that I want you to use. And then you can ensure that it kind of feeds back to you like an explanation of what that framework is, right? So you know that it understands the framework. And then you can tell it, give it prompts to be like, utilizing this framework, I need you to create 10 headlines about, this product doing X for the ideal customer, right? And it will spit out those headlines very quick. So ideation, it's incredible for ideation. To be able to really get a lot of things out quickly, just you can really kind of scale things and do things at scale, like fast, very fast. And so normally, to generate 10 headlines, there are strong headlines using, just yourself, your brain or whatever. Like it may take like an hour
Yeah.
or 30 minutes, right? This took like less than 5 seconds to do that. So being able to do that to really, drive strong headlines. You can use people's voices. I mean, I've been using like Jarvis or Jasper. I've used that. I've used different tools along the way that have been, AI kind of specific tools. So AI has actually been around for like a long time, actually like quite a long time. Google has used it to manage its search algorithms and all that kind of stuff, and to make edits, and like, so it has been around for a lot longer than what people realize. It's just becoming more mainstream and more accessible for the everyday person to use. And so, but when you think about that, like use cases for marketers or for, it started out with like programming, right? So I actually had it write me a script to scrape websites. And it wrote a script based on a very specific language and a very specific library to go scrape, to do a very basic scraping of a website to grab some, information. And then I had it write me a WordPress plugin to then display that information on a WordPress site. And it did all that within a few clicks, like literally like less than 30 seconds. It generated those initial scripts for me to kind of dive into, to customize and all that kind of stuff. And it does error handling very well. So you can go and spit an error message into ChatGPT and say, here's the script, here's the error I'm getting. How do I solve this? And it will solve it for you. And so given it very specific things, though, that's like where it's most powerful. Is if you can get really specific in what you're trying to accomplish with it, it will help. It helps solve things very, very, very quickly.
Since there are so many channels and strategies available for any SEO or digital marketing agency to take up, how do you recommend a business to prioritize which effort would work best, or which effort would yield the best results?
That's a tough question for sure, because it really is like dependent upon the situation in a lot of cases, right?
But I was going to say, it's very fine if you answer it depends on your needs, because I think that's kind of a perfect answer for most.
Yeah, I think it definitely does depend on your needs, and it depends on your budgets and some of that stuff. But if I was to boil down and look at and try to build an average for all the companies that I've worked with over the years, I would say that digital ads is always a great place to start.
All right.
And a great place to, because you're going to get the fastest feedback off your messaging, off of your offer, off of all of that, faster than anything else. Unless you already have like a strong and a big email database, because then I would just say, well, start there. Just start sending more emails and start testing offers and things like that, because it's not going to cost you any more or less to just send more emails. But for the people kind of just starting out, things like, you're going to need to get some immediate feedback in a lot of what you're trying to do, and to see if what you're doing is going to be tangible moving forward. So like digital ads is always a great way to start.
Let's say I'm just starting out and I'm not too sure about how to go forward with my digital ads. What would you say are some of the common misconceptions I could have about it, just in setting up the digital ads, executing it as well?
Yeah, some of the misconceptions that people feel like, and this is, I kind of lay blame a little bit to the platforms, because they have made it really simple to be able to launch a campaign. They try to make it as easy as possible so that anybody can just go and do it, right? And that's good and can be really helpful. But a lot of the misconceptions is understanding like, okay, I got to have a pixel setup. I've got to be able to be driving audience creation. I got to just the development of the message and the flow of how I'm going to be taking from one stage to the next and Facebook has kind of built this in a little bit to their kind of campaign structures where they have like the customer value journey, really. Like, it's like, okay, we have our branding, segment, and then we have our engagement segment, and then we have our conversion at events, and then we have and it keeps going on and on. So it's like, what do we want to optimize for? And I think so the misconception that you can just kind of throw up an ad and it's going to bring sales immediately without any strategic thought is a huge misconception. Before you run any digital ad, you need to understand the flow of what you're trying to do to lead your customer to a purchase.
That I can wholeheartedly agree, because I believe one of the first thoughts I had about digital ads in general was just to throw money into it and it'll just do its job, and you'll get your ads to be profitable after that. But clearly I'm very, very off.
Yeah.
An age-old question though is something that, do we create this for, let's say, the search engine, or are we creating this kind of content for our audience? I feel like the very clear answer is to your audience, but could you maybe play devil's advocate and do both?
Yeah. So, because like as SEOs, we're trying to get you to rank, right, for a certain keyword. And so what do we need to do? Well, we're going to try to generate as much content as possible for those things we want to rank for, which is, so we're going to be like, okay, we have to, got to have 2,500 words, and we got to be making sure that there's 2% of the keyword throughout the body of the article. And then we have to make sure that, we have internal linking and all that kind of stuff. So we're building that content for the search engines, really. But, so it's kind of interesting, but then when you think about it, like from a consumer perspective, because for the search engine, Google has come out and said like the most useful content is going to be ranked the best, and it's going to be rewarded, authoritative type content. We don't want just spun articles and all that kind of stuff. We want actual things that people are going to actually get value out of. And so when you're coming from that perspective, you actually can do more and you can rank for way more keywords because we're then providing a solution. We can get way deep in the topic. We're talking about problems and solving those problems and answering questions and a whole plethora of different avenues to generate a content library for the specific keywords. So you want to have a balance of both. You want to make sure that you're providing content that people are going to get things out of, but you also want to be able to structure that content in a way that's going to be viable and the way that Google wants it presented to them.
To kind of put the cherry on that cake, could you maybe give us an example of how you, let's say, executed an online marketing campaign and how it, what was the pros and cons, what you learned from it?
Yeah, when we're talking just like SEO, or you want to kind of dive more into?
SEO should be fine. Yeah.
Well, and this kind of, I guess, does kind of go into on the digital ad side a little bit too. Whenever we start doing an SEO campaign, one of the cool things we like to do is we like to test keywords. And so we'll actually build a piece of content that's just answering a question. And then we put a call to action in that kind of leads people to a product. So this is actually we do this actually a lot. This is very core to like how we operate, especially on the SEO side. As we figure out, say, okay, we want to rank for merino wool. Cool. What's the top 10 questions that people ask about merino wool? Well, how do I clean it? How do I do this? How do I do that? Right. So it's like, okay, cool. Let's start and let's build a page that talks about how to take care of. So it's like a merino wool care guide. We just took a question against a very popular keyword and we kind of molded it where to like, okay, it's a care guide, but now we're teaching you how to take care of it. And so we're ranking for both of those types of keywords. And then in the mix of that, we're talking about all sorts of different things, with all the different fibers of it and all the, why you do this versus, why you do this and why you don't do certain things. And so we're really building that in. But then we have call to actions that lead to then people buying a base layer made out of merino wool. And then we run ads to that to test the effectiveness of if that's going to be an effective way to drive conversions. And if we can drive sales through that, then cool, we'll start driving backlinks. And we'll start getting backlinks to that. And then as we build that content library, horizontally, that just strengthens everything that we just implied, to where now we have multiple pages that are all going to be doing the same thing as that one page is doing. So we're able to really ensure that we're going to be able to drive conversions with those actions before we start a lot of the way longer term stuff. Because as you know, like driving backlinks and doing that stuff, like it takes a long time.
Yeah.
Like SEO is a very, very long-term thing. It's one of the things I like to tell people. It's like, hey, we're going to start work today, but we're not going to be able to see any results really and track to see if we're doing, if you're getting your return on investment for 18 months.
Thank you, EJ, for spending time with us. It was brilliant chatting with you. Hopefully we can have you again on the show for another episode.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It was a blast.
Thanks for watching that episode. I hope you enjoyed. For more videos like this, make sure you like and subscribe.